Today we're going to go over everything that you need to start seeds for your garden this year. So the first thing you need are your seeds. I keep mine in this old photo storage container system. It doesn't need to be this elaborate, especially if you don't have that many seeds, but I will go over what I did to organize this in another video. But essentially, I've got them all organized by what type of plant they are. And you want to keep that in a cool, dry place, just so nothing happens to your seeds while you're not using them. Next, you want something to put your seeds in. So I have a lot of different things over here that I'm going to show you. Depending on what kind of method you're using to start your seeds, there's a lot of different methods out there. I have tried the normal, the seed cell method in the past. This year I'm trying something new. I'm trying seed blocking, so we'll go over that. But if you're doing the seed cell method, you want to get something like this, which they sell online or in the store. Or if you don't want to buy anything, you could use things that you already have in your house. Egg cartons are great. Also, berry containers are great. Anything that you have that you could either poke a hole in, which you would need to poke a hole in all of the bottoms of this. These already have holes in the bottom, which is great. And then your seed cells, I don't know if you can see that, they have holes in the bottom also. And that is because you're gonna want to bottom water your seeds. We'll talk about that later. But anything to put your seeds in. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be fancy, but just some options for you. And I can link what I bought below if you would like to use that. Here is just a bigger version, depending on how many seeds you want to start. This comes out. Again, they have holes in the bottom, and then it sits in this tray. If you are using stuff you find at home, just make sure to put it on something so when you water it, the water doesn't go all over the place. It could be a plate, it could be another container, just so you don't have water all over your table or your floor or wherever you're gonna put your seeds. The other main thing you're gonna need is your soil. So I have made my own soil here, only because I knew I was gonna need a lot of it. But if you're a beginner and this is the first time that you're starting seeds, or you just don't have enough time to make your own seed starting mix, the pre-made seed starting mix is perfectly fine at the store. You want to go ahead and get the seed starting mix, not potting mix or raised bed soil, because the seed starting mix is finer. It doesn't have a lot of big chunks in it, so the seeds can actually grow up and don't hit a piece of mulch or a stick or whatever that's in there. And it also doesn't have a lot of fertilizer in it, because fertilizer will kill seedlings. It's just too much for them. If you do want to make your own soil, I can post what I use to make mine below. Essentially, I used compost, which I bought from a bag at a store. I used coconut coir, which I bought online. And then I used vermiculite, or you could use perlite. And you mix all those three together in equal parts. I also added some worm castings to mine. And then you're just gonna wanna mix it up and then get a container and you'll have your own mix. But again, if you're just starting, I would recommend just buying a pre-made starting mix. So something else that you're gonna need is a way to water your plants. So here I have just a spritz bottle from the dollar store. When your seedlings are very young, you're gonna wanna spray them before they germinate to keep them moist. And then once they've germinated or sprouted, you're gonna want to bottom water them. So get yourself this, I don't know, you could use a cup or whatever, depending on how many seeds you have. This just holds more for me, and it's a way to the sink, so this works for me. The next few things are very helpful, but not necessary if you are just starting out and you're only growing a couple things. So the first thing is some kind of chopstick, or I mean, they sell tools that do this, but this is to poke your holes in the soil to put your seeds in. You could use your finger. I mean, you could use anything, but this is useful to have. Next is something to write everything down in. I got this as a Christmas gift a couple years ago. It's been really useful. It's got, you know, calendars in it. It's got checklists. It's all kinds of stuff. But if you're just starting out, just use a piece of paper and a pen, or write a note on your phone just to make sure you know when you're planting your seeds, what you planted, where you're going to plant it, so that when you do it next year, you remember all the notes in your head that are inevitably you're going to forget. Next, we have heat mats. I use these for things like peppers, tomatoes. If you're growing seeds, you might want to Google to see what the temperature is that they need to germinate. It also may say on your seed packet, but if it's a higher temperature, they're going to be much easier to germinate with a heat mat. So this, you just plug it in, you put your seed container right on top of it, and it'll keep it at whatever it says on here. I think this keeps it at like 75 to 85 degrees. So these are good to have if you're doing things like tomatoes and peppers that need heat. All right, also something useful are these little plant labels. So you'd use a marker and you would write it in, and it has a little sharp point that you can use to put in the dirt. These are super useful because you're not going to know what you planted. If you plant this much stuff, you're not going to remember what you planted, where you planted it. Also, if your setup is in the middle of the house, like mine is, and your toddler comes and removes all of the plant labels, then you're going to have a hard time knowing what's what. So it should be a surprise in the garden this year. I think I put them all back where they should go, but we'll see. And last, I talked a little bit about soil blocking earlier. This is a soil blocker. You can buy it online. What it does is it creates little tiny blocks of soil versus you putting the soil in something like this. So it essentially creates this in soil, so you don't need these cells. So if you're going to use one of these, it's really easy. I'll show you in another video how to do it. But you would need this if you're going to go with the soil blocking method versus something like this. Okay, and then two things I want to show you behind me that are pretty useful. If you have a very, very sunny windowsill, you may not need this, but I have found that my seeds grow exceptionally better with grow lights. This is not a specific gardening light. This is just a light that I bought on Amazon. It's like a shop light. So these lights, they come with these little chains on them, and then you can remove the chain or make it tighter or extend it so that the light can be as close to the plant as you can get. Or when they get bigger, you can raise the light up for the plants to keep growing. So the last thing I want to talk about are these little fans. So when you plant your seeds and they start to grow, there are two things that these fans do. One is they strengthen your seedlings because they mimic the outdoor breeze in the air so that it makes your seedlings stronger as they grow, because they can get a little bit flimsy if you're growing them inside, and then it makes it harder to transplant them outside because they're not used to the environment outside. So when this fan is on, it gives it a little breeze and it mimics the outdoors. Also, when you're planting, I don't have a good example of it here, but sometimes when you're planting after your seeds have sprouted, you can get a little bit of moisture on top of your soil and a little bit of mold grows. So having the fans kind of helps air out your soil and you don't have that problem of the mold. Now, if you want to get really fancy, you can get a shelf like this. This is not particular to gardening. I just got this as a utility shelf from the local hardware store. And then I could easily connect all of my fans, all of my heat mats are hooked up to this, all my lights, and then I just have a couple power strips and everything is zip tied to the shelving unit to make it easy. It doesn't have to be this elaborate. It could just be one of these on a shelf with a light over it, and that's all you need. My setup is currently in my dining room. I know people put them in their basements. I personally don't want to spend that much time in my basement, so it's up here. If you're gonna put it in your basement, I probably would suggest getting a heat mat because it's colder usually in your basement. Other than that, if it is somewhere out of the way, you don't need these clip-on fans. You could just get one big oscillating fan and it'll do the same job. But I can't do that because it's in the middle of my house, so I can't have a big fan sitting in the walkway. So that's why I have these. So now you have everything that you need in order to start seeds, and we will start planting in the next part of our seed starting series. So if that was information that was useful to you, please give me a like and a follow, for more homesteadish tips.